You know, when you notice cobwebs between the tires and the suspension, you know that a trip is long overdue. This time we chose Northern Zimbabwe and we'll be visiting Chizarira, Matusadona and Mana pools. A quick stop for coffee in Modimolle and then off for the border at Stockport, which is close to Ellis Russ. As usual, there's no one in the queue, which is a fantastic pleasure. And off to our favourite stopover spot at Woodlands in Francistown, and we always try and use the same campsite. Hey, and what is a braai without a good old packet of knickknacks and a rack of ERM ribs? Okay, today we'll cover about 600 kilometers, crossing the border at Paramatenga and making our way down past Wangi town and down to a spot which I found just outside the Wangi Game Reserve called the Gwango Elephant Reserve. After a quick breakfast, we hit the road to Paramatenga. Beware of the infamous speed cops. The border post is looking a bit derelict, but everything went quickly and smoothly. The Bradfield's hornbill is not found in South Africa, so we sat and watched an interaction between it and a few yellow-billed hornbills. And then, off for one of the sightings of the trip, we came across this African rock python just chilling in a tree, and what a treat that was. We made sure that the people behind us stopped to see it, only to discover that they had just seen a leopard with cubs on the same road. Then across the Dekra River, past a number of Chinese Zim government joint ventures, and onto Gwango Elephant Reserve. Gwango campsite was quite new, but we found it to be an ideal overnight spot. Only about 240 k's today, but it took us about 5.5 hours. Over the Gwai River, past the turn-off to Binga, and on to Chizarira. The road was not bad to start with, and we drove past all kinds of things for sale. Gwai River Bridge was very pretty and well worth a stop. See the old and even older bridges visible in the background. Past shops and villages with probably their food hut elevated off the ground. Women digging for water in the dry riverbeds to wash clothes. And then we were at the turn-off, only 11 k's to the gate. We got a super friendly greeting at the gate, and then we were in. A few rough, steep patches to negotiate, and we arrived at our campsite. Now, there were a choice of 2 campsites on the gorge, and we were actually booked into the slightly more scenic Macheni view site. You guessed it, someone was already there. Instead of making a fuss, we settled into Macheni Gorge site, which turned out to be just perfect. Both sites are separated from the edge of the gorge by a thin single strand of wire, not a place to be stumbling around in the dark. No power, but both sites have cold showers and toilets with a reservoir which gets filled by the tractor every day. A few days after we were there, the tractor driver had not engaged his handbrake properly, and if it weren't for someone's poor bucky, the tractor would have become part of the scenery far below. The views from the little thatch afdak were stunning. We saw a rose eagle and a new lifer, an auger buzzard. We sat there for a few hours just soaking it all up. We woke up to a stunning dawn over the gorge. The light was just magnificent. A quick breakfast and then off to find the office to check in and pay. We decided to do some driving around. Not a game drive, because as expected we didn't see much game, but there was heaps to keep us interested. Just look how well camouflaged this little guy is. We didn't fancy the picnic spot, and so stopped for lunch somewhere else. We were very glad to be able to get out of the sun. And then on the way back, another remarkable display of camouflage. Except for the couple who snagged our campsite, the park was empty, so we decided to try another spot. We cleared a path through the bushes and were able to get our chairs out and just sit back and enjoy the show. Kaswisi campsite was probably one of the nicest sites we've ever camped in. We were warned that it had no facilities, but that's exactly how we like it. Besides the pristine beauty and serenity of the spot, we had a great egret patiently fishing. Plenty of white-fronted bee-eaters doing all kinds of aerobatic displays for us. Squawker herons. A pied kingfisher female trying again and again. And then it was whiskey o'clock and time to get the fire lit. Check the little 5-litre jerry cans, warming up our shower water. Just be sure to keep the lid open. Dinner tonight was to be giant mushrooms topped with an assortment of peppers, onion, garlic and cheese, with a lekker piece of grabouwbos and a sappige lamb chop, and probably another little whizzo, and then for a piping hot shower. This was probably the toughest day of the trip. Only 200 kilometers, but it took us over 9 hours. It was a super scenic route along the escarpment, up and down the valleys and over dodgy bridges where they still existed. We saw just one other vehicle the whole day. We had so enjoyed watching the Riverside show yesterday that we sat and watched the dawn with a solitary cold-looking baboon for company. Loads of usual feathered visitors appeared. A wattled lapwing, a little grebe, a white-backed vulture, and then another lifer, a black stork, which we also managed to get a shot of in flight. Getting out of Chizarira was a bit rough and slow going. We got back onto the main road and we were soon sailing along at 70 to 80 k's an hour, thinking that we were in for a 3-hour trip. So we've just left Chizarira. This is the main road off to Matusadona. We've got probably about a 3-hour drive. The road was soon to get much worse.
I think that you need to invest in a very strong ground.
Then we descended into the Uber River Valley, past an amusing road sign, to find that the bridge at the bottom is no longer there. The main issue was that the road conditions changed very suddenly, so charging along at 70 k's an hour and then slamming on brakes for a rough spot time and again was not a long-term solution. With the Tracks for Africa info on the area being a bit skimpy, our GPS was wanting to take us off down what looked like bicycle tracks, and we had to make a few U-turns. At last we had arrived to find that we were the only people in camp. The shadows were long and the fuses were actually a bit short. We both needed a stiff G&T. We were to bump into the Tracks for Africa guys in Tashinga on our second night. They were busy mapping the area and version 22.1 now has the routes properly updated. A very helpful camp attendant brought us a huge pile of fantastic Mapani firewood. After having the choice of any spot, a site was chosen, a fire was lit, and we were treated to an amazing sunset.